Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show.
To another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. I am so glad to be back with you. If I can just tell you what I've been going through and making sure that I can come before you and share another episode of the podcast, I will say it is not in the most ideal conditions, but nevertheless, we are here and we are recording. It is the goal to make sure that the quality that we are bringing to you is top notch. You can see well, hear well. And so in establishing some upgrades, it has, I'll just say, it's been a journey. I am back with you, and the saying perfect gets in the way of progress. I don't want perfect, and in the meantime the mic is silent. So it's important to me that I get back in front of the microphone as we continue to work on some technical things, so that we can make sure we're bringing you a great product for your hearing and viewing pleasure. And so whether you get the podcast on a streaming platform like Spotify or iHeartRadio, or whether you watch the podcast on YouTube, it is our goal that we continue to not just deliver a great message to you, but that it is also aesthetically appealing. So in some regards, I want to say we are still under construction, but bear with us. But in this episode, I want to talk about, I had the great opportunity to attend a conversation with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman and Donna Brazile. And it was just remarkable. And I'm grateful. I have to shout out the Center for American Women in Politics, based here in New Jersey, out of Rutgers University. And they continue to provide great programming, whether it's speakers that they bring. I've seen Joy Ann Reid, I've seen Donna Brazile, and a great panel of women, notably when she was on tour for the book Cooking with Grease. They do ready to run trainings and conferences to help encourage women get involved in the political process. And that's regardless of political affiliation. Whatever party you are interested in is really irrelevant. The goal is to ensure women understand that there's a place for them and support them at all levels. Whether you're a supporter of a woman candidate, whether you are the woman candidate yourself, they do an amazing job. So I definitely want to shout out the Center for American Women in Politics. But this conversation was to recognize the Congresswoman for her many, many, many years of service in serving New Jersey. In Congress, she was first elected in 2015. Just being a servant leader, just being someone who stepped forward. And in fact, it was really remarkable to hear the journey that she took to get there, when in fact she really wasn't interested in running for Congress. But there were others who thought that she should step in. They thought and believed that she was a great resource. She was a fine candidate. She had the character and the integrity to serve. And so she's been serving New Jersey and just doing a really remarkable job representing the 12th congressional district in New Jersey, but really representing the American people in prioritizing education, prioritizing economic development, prioritizing the needs of Black women and girls, and really being unashamed with what her values are. And she's certainly an example. She's a role model. I think that she has wonderful traits that anyone who wants to establish a career in servant leadership could emulate, whether that's a man or a woman. She is selfless. She's committed. She's knowledgeable. And so it was really great to hear her conversation Donna Brazile is always entertaining, but also asking her very thoughtful questions about her tenure in service and her perspective on current events, what's happening now with the current political climate, the current president, and the current crisis that Americans are facing economically and socially and dealing with many of the challenges that we're facing currently. And as I was listening and I was taking notes on what she was saying, just really, really trying to soak in when you have the opportunity to hear from someone who served, someone who has wisdom and many years and much experience under their belt. I want to make sure that I can have some nuggets to take away, not just to inform the work that I do in my community, the work that I do here on the podcast, the work that I do with my career, but also have things that I can come back and share with the audience here, share in the work that I do politically, and so that I can be fortified and strengthened in my servant leadership and what I strive to do and the resource that I want to be for my community. So I was taking a lot of notes, and she calls me to be very thoughtful. And one of the things that I thought about is so many people can look at an elected official, someone who's working in government or a politician, and politics can really put a bad taste in the mouths of people. Politicians have a reputation for being slimy, for being greedy, for being corrupt. And while there are people who are serving or taking the title or seeking the title, but really just being self serving, there are people like Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman and others who are working to make a difference in the lives of the people that they represent. And service can extend from PTA president to someone who's on the Board of Education, the school board, an elected official there, the city, municipal government, state government, and of course our elected officials that represent us in the Senate and in the House. It's easy to make the assumption, and it could be kind of convenient to make the assumption that someone who's serving in office is really about themselves, because we just see so much of it, and often those sensational stories are highlighted and get a lot of press. But there are people like the Congresswoman who are serving because they want to make a difference. They want to represent those who are voiceless, the parents of this special needs child that is struggling to access the resources in the community, the student who is trying to advance themselves and their family through education, but are having a struggle with getting student aid, or the senior who needs to have home repairs that are really essential and vital for their own safety, and perhaps don't have the resources and need help. It's these people who take these positions often don't enter the arena because they're looking to enrich themselves. So many people get involved, and I gotta go back to Center for American Women in Politics, and I've met women and heard their stories about being somebody that was supporting another candidate term after term or cycle after election cycle. And they, because of their volunteership, because of their commitment to support, they themselves got to become knowledgeable in issues. They themselves got to understand more about the political process, and then found themselves being encouraged, much like Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, to step in, throw their hat in the ring so that they can be positioned to be the person to serve, or someone who just sees a need and thinks that their ideas could be perhaps the mechanism to create the change that they think is necessary, appropriate, and that can make a meaningful contribution. So, as I said, it can be convenient to have that posture, and it kind of can be a self-righteous posture that your mayor or your council person or the commissioner in your county is somebody that's just self-enriching. But when I think about the people that I know personally, people like Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who really want to serve other people and are serving other people, it is a major sacrifice to be an elected official, to work in government, because you think about you can get all of the criticism, you can get all of the blame, you can get all of the vitriol, and the people don't understand the behind the scenes efforts that you're putting forward to try to solve their problems, right? People are just worried about the outcome. If you're on council and you have residents that are coming to you, calling your office about their issues, right? And once they've called you, people can get this idea that, okay, I've called my local representative, they should fix it. Well, they have to, that person that you called now has to kind of do the legwork and try to identify the department that's responsible for your issue. If the concern that you're calling about is sometimes legitimate, because sometimes people call and if an elected official wants to rush out and help, they have to really get the facts. So getting the facts, understanding the circumstances, partnering with others, whether it's a nonprofit agency, whether it's a business, whether it's other people on council, whether it's they have to go beyond the municipal and contact a county official, a state official. Like, there's a lot of work that has to happen to help solve problems for residents. And I encourage you to get to know those people who are in elected office, who are representing you, because they're people just like you. And just because they're occupying a seat, it doesn't make magic, right? Because they have been elected or because they're in government. It does not make magic. They are just people like you, your neighbors, who are trying to make a difference. Now, I will say there are people who are there because they do like a title, because they are trying to advance themselves. But often people who are in elected office, for them to make changes, then they have to use influence. They have to use compromise, things that we often may struggle to do in our professional lives and our personal lives. But an elected official may often have to compromise. We hear about Republicans and Democrats. You hear about them reaching across the aisle, and that's such a noteworthy thing, because often people want to, it can be convenient for people to work in their silos based on their political affiliation. But for people to get things done, people have to work together. And it's not always easy to work together, because each party or each person has an agenda. So how can we meet the needs of the people that we serve, and still sort of maintain my interest or my position? And it's a journey. And I've said this on this podcast before, that it is very helpful when the people that elected officials are looking to serve are there, are supporting them, are making the phone calls, not just coming with the criticism. And that can be the easy piece, and sometimes that can be the cheap piece. But have you went to your elected official and say, listen, this is what we need in our community, this is what we need in our schools, this is what we need in our state, and how can I help you achieve this for us? How can I help? When is the last time we've asked those elected officials, those people who are working in government, how can I help? Because the job doesn't end with our vote, right? We have to continue the work, as we have an expectation that they're going to continue the work. Not to say that we don't hold them accountable, not to say that we don't hold them accountable to campaign promises. But often, once a person gets into office, then you kind of begin to understand the complexity of the role that you're in. And it's not just so easy to come in and make things happen. There is no magic wand. There's a mechanism for laws to get passed, for bills to get passed. There's a mechanism for that. And not only do we want our electeds to operate and understand the mechanism, but we have to understand the mechanisms for ourselves. But listening to Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman was refreshing. It was so motivating. And I think that it is good for us to listen to people who have a motivational message, who have a inspirational message, not because you aspire to be a politician or because you aspire to be some sort of political leader, but when you are around people who have achieved, and you listen to them talk about the commitment, the dedication, the hurdles, the obstacles how they had to overcome, the partnerships they had to establish, it can really in some way be a blueprint for us in what it is that we're trying to do, whether it's, start a business, start a family, buy a home, right? Complete our education, whatever it is, listening to someone talk about how they had to accomplish something, it can inform us in whatever space in life that we're operating from. So it's certainly a pleasure to do this podcast and to get great inspiration and to be fortified. And I encourage you to kind of seek out people who are operating at a high vibration, people who are accomplishing. It's easy to complain. It's easy to fault find. It's easy to criticize. But sometimes we don't know what people are going through. I mean, I'm listening to this woman talk about the death threats. I mean, real death threats, where you're getting letters, phone calls, emails of people who saying, I want to kill you, right? And then we can sit back and with the luxury of being anonymous and not having any skin in the game and fault find with them, not really knowing what these people are going through, what their families are going through, what they have to endure, and the hardship that comes with service, the hardship that comes with leadership. And sometimes it's nice when they can open up and we can kind of do like an autopsy on what they have to go through just to accomplish. And with anything, sometimes you exert a lot of effort and you get a little bit out of it. But change sometimes comes incrementally, and that's okay too. And like with this podcast, change comes incrementally, and that's okay too. Something that I probably need to keep reminding myself of. But it's a privilege to have the opportunity to be here with you. I'm grateful to you for enduring and the patience that you've shared with me in this podcast as we've tried to develop it over the years. And I'm going to keep going at it, working to improve, learning new technologies, acquiring equipment that can help streamline what we're doing here. Because as I said, this is Nora Speaks is an operation whereby we want to make sure we're delivering a message that's positive, that's engaging, and that is a great resource to help our people improve outcomes. As I have mentioned, Nora Speaks is really for the Black community. We have so many issues that concern us. We have so many problems to solve. And I believe that you can find answers or ideas, in episode after episode, that if we apply it, we can help improve our outcomes. We can help our electeds. It is not just for us to call the Department of Public Works to solve the problem with cleanliness. If we ourselves would clean up, pick up, not litter, right? So it's not just us calling on them, it's us calling on ourselves. And that's what the North Speaks podcast urges us to do, to call on ourselves and work together with each other. Judge Dortch, who was on the podcast, a great guest. And I believe in what he said, that if everybody does a little, nobody has to do a lot. So I want to thank you for joining me in this episode. And listen, be kind. It's rough out here. People are really going through a lot. People don't have everything that they need to get by. You never know what medical condition someone is dealing with, or that their child is dealing with. And we can be so icy cold to each other. So I say, be kind. Say a kind word. Wear a smile for someone, because you can really make their day. Our folks are dealing with a lot, and we should be brotherly and sisterly to each other. And I think that can really be meaningful. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Nora Speaks. If you watch on YouTube, like, share, let me know what you think. I would love to know what your ideas are, read your feedback. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can certainly leave a rating and a review. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Nora Speaks. It is my pleasure to be with you, and it is a privilege to be able to serve you in this way. Thank you again, and until next week, stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property, and to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. What I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Nora Speaks. Look out for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, you can visit my website, noraspeaks.com. Or if you have a listener question, you can email me at nora@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow Nora Speaks on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Nora Speaks. I will be sure to include links in the show notes. If Nora Speaks has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.